Welcome everyone to Determining Your Schedule. This is the third lesson in the Running with the Mind 10K training program with Marty Kibolowski, our mindful running coach. I'm Josh Weinstein, and today we will be asking Marty to help figure out a training schedule for one of our members. She's a woman in her mid-40s, and we'll give you some more details as we go. But she asked for a 10K train. She wants to train to run her first 10K. So we'll
Okay.
go through that and we'll lay out the schedule that she could follow. Obviously, she'll have to make some tweaks and figure out what fits her life. But the same would apply to you. If you have an interest in running a 10K, you could use this as a template. And if you're having trouble, again, contact me at josh@runningmind.org. And I can put you in touch with Marty for a one-on-one coaching call. But we hope that this will be enough information for you guys to give it a go on your own if that's what you'd like to do. What is the process for determining a training schedule? Where do we start? How do we figure out what we
Sure.
need to do?
Well, we need to ask ourselves a series of questions. The first one would be, it's a basic, I'll call it the gap analysis, which is what's my goal? Where am I at today? And what's the gap in between? And so the training really is to fill the gap, because once the gap is closed, then you've hit your goal. So we start with the end in mind. So what is my end goal? And in this case, you said the member, she wants to run a 10K. Does she have any time in particular, or just she wants to
She
run it
did.
without stopping?
She wants to, her goal time, she wants to be able to run the 10K in 70 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so an hour and 10 minutes. So we'd have to figure out what pace that is per mile. So that would be our goal. Like, we need to run this pace per mile on average for 6.2 miles, and we'll break 70 minutes. So what I need to know now is how much running is she doing currently today?
Okay, good question. She runs 2 miles once a week.
Okay, 2 miles once a week, and she wants to run 6 miles without stopping, probably at a pace similar to what she's doing today, would be my guess. So that's a fairly big gap, but it's one we can close for sure. So the key to this would be give yourself enough time. Does she have a time frame of when this 10K is going to happen from now?
Yeah, she's looking ahead 6 months at a race coming up this fall.
Okay, I think that's a fair assessment. If she wanted to do this in 2 months, it's too close. We could probably work with her and get her to run a 10K in 2 months, but the risks are high. The risk of burnout, the risk of injury, the risk of overtraining and getting sick, and all those are really counter to what we're trying to accomplish. Not only is it not very joyful, it's also probably not going to be very successful. So that's one of the mistakes, a common mistake, a common misconception, I would say, is that we pick too short of a time frame to hit our endurance goals. You mentioned aerobic and anaerobic. For those watching, you probably know, but the basic difference is endurance training, endurance effort versus speed. And endurance can be built over time almost in an unlimited fashion. So there's no real end in sight for that, as long as you can stay consistent week after week after week after week. So now I guess the question I would ask, so 6 months, we have our time frame. We have the goal, 10K, 70 minutes. We know her starting point, which is twice a week.
Once a week, 2
2
miles.
miles.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a starting point. Now the question becomes, how does she feel about being able to move up the number of days? And what is the maximum number of days I have to work with between now and 6 months from now, where she feels like week in, week out, she could do it? Right now it's twice a week. Can she work up to 3 and maybe 4 times a week? It would be a question I'd have to ask.
Yep. I did ask her that, how many days a week, and the question really is, how many days a week could she consistently see herself getting to? And she thought that that 3 was very realistic, and So maybe you could talk a little bit about, do you think that would be enough, or?
I think it could be. So let's just go with that. And the key to this really is to be very honest about your schedule and what's going on for you. And if 2 days a week is the honest answer, that's fine. We'll work with that. We'll probably have to extend it out a little more than 6 months though. And if we go 3 times a week, we can make that happen. But things come up like our job and our other responsibilities in our life. And given, say, quote, the hardest week you might have, could you still find a way to do it 3 times a week? And if the answer is yes, then that's a good response. If the answer is no, then that's fine too. But just be honest about what it really is. And if possible, some weeks I could do 4, depending on the week. That's good to know as well. So here's what we do. We start where you are, right? We're going to go to where we want to be, but we need to start where you are. So right now, she's able to run twice a week.
Once a week, 2 miles.
Once a week. Right now, she's able to run once a week for 2 miles.
And she didn't say that she was limited in the number of times she ran. That's just what she's doing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend beginning next week is we're going to try to go twice a week for the 2 miles. Okay, so and let's pick what those 2 days might be. I'm guessing one of the days might be a weekend day.
Yeah,
easier.
So she runs on Sunday.
Okay, so I'd run a Sunday, and then anytime during the week up to Friday would be your second day, but not Saturday. We don't want to go 2 in a row, and we don't want to go Monday. So if she's running right now on Sunday, do not run Monday or Saturday. Now your choice for your second run would be Tuesday through Friday, and let's figure out based on your schedule which one would work best. And it's nice to have a consistency to your schedule. It creates a habit. So you say, well, some weeks it'll be Tuesday, some weeks it'll be Wednesday. That's okay, but it's not as ideal as picking the day because it becomes a habit. And then we should work on doing that for a couple of weeks to see how she's doing and see how she's feeling. And if she feels like she can take on more, then we can take on more. Well, how do we know if she can take on more? One of the things we want to do is every morning, take your resting heart rate and get a baseline, maybe over the course of a handful of days, maybe a week. I'd say 3 or 4 days would be fine, but 5 days is better. What's your baseline? Let's say your baseline, your heart rate is 70 beats per minute. It doesn't matter what it is, we just want a baseline. And then as we do the training and you keep checking it, if it goes up 5, 6 beats in the morning, we're overtraining. Our body gives us this nice feedback, and heart rate's a good way of testing it. Then we need to stay where we are and not increase, and maybe even back off just a little bit. So that's another approach we want to take a look at. If we're running along and we're increasing the number of the frequency per week, keeping her distance the same, heart rate's good in the morning, she's feeling pretty good about it, then rather than adding another day, we're going to add a little more mileage. So the next thing we're going to bump up is the mileage from 2 to say 2.5 on one day and 3 on the other. We're going to do that for 2 weeks, maybe 3. We're going to check our heart rate, see how we're doing, see how we're feeling about it. And then from there, we can move it up again. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move up the mileage another notch and do that for a few weeks, same methodology of seeing how you're feeling. And then we're going to introduce the third day. And if you look at the time frame now, we're down the road, a couple of months before we even done this. So now we're going to move up to the 3 times a week. And in her case, we're going to gradually move up the amount that she's going to run to within about a month, 3 to 4 weeks before her race, she's actually going to run up to 5 miles, maybe 6 in practice before she runs the 10K itself. And we're going to, when we get to 3 days a week, one of the days is going to be a long run, and the other 2 days are going to be less than the long run. And the formula we use for that is whatever you've been averaging for the 3 days, as we've moved her mileage up, let's say she's been averaging 3.5, 4 miles per day. Let's just pick 4. That the long run is anywhere from 50% more than that, in this case, 6 miles, or 100% more than that, which would be 8 miles. In this case, it'd be too much for her. So I would say let's go to 6 miles for the long run, 4 miles for her other days of the week. And as we get a little bit closer to the race, we'll incorporate some speed work. And what speed work is race specific pacing. So whatever her goal pace is, the 70 minutes, we're going to work on getting her mentally and physically used to that exact pace. So when she goes out to run her 10K, she will run that pace the whole way. And the best way to run a 10K, if you're looking for a time, is to run every mile consistently, every mile at the same pace, the same effort. There are hills and down, uphills and downhills. But if you're going to run 10-minute miles, you want to run your first mile in 10 minutes, not something faster than that, and try to be consistent through that the entire run, and then you'll hit your goal. I know that was a mouthful, Josh. Hope it wasn't too much at once.
No, not at all. That was great. She did say that she thought she might be able to work up to 4 days a week. What would be the benefits if she is able to do that? Again, keeping in mind, we don't want to create a should or be putting pressure on people, but just so they have the information.
From an endurance building process, from looking at it just strictly from your cardiovascular system and growing the endurance that you have, 3 days a week is good. 4 days a week is somewhere between 25 and 30% better than 3 days a week. But 5 days a week is only 10% better than 4 days a week. So 4 days a week is really a kind of a nice sweet spot. You can really maximize the endurance that you can build over time if you can go 4 days. So there's definite benefit in that. But if you can't go 4 days, you can still get to the same spot that someone else does with 4 days. It just takes you longer if you're doing it 3 days. So it's a different way of getting to the exact same spot. One will get you there a little bit quicker, but depending on your schedule and how you're handling the training, 4 days might not be the best. So I think it's important to know that all these things are possible. The body is an amazing machine that you can train, but if you don't do it consistently, week in, week out, you're really limiting what you can do. The rule of thumb is, let's say that you think you can do 4 days a week, and you really can't. So you're pushing yourself, and it's a little too much. You start to get burned out, and then you take a week off to rest. And I might recommend that if you really were burned out. But when you take a week off, it takes a whole nother week to get back to where you were before you took the week off. So you can see the power of consistency.
Yeah.
And if you were to run 3 days a week every single week without having to take any time off, you get better and better and better and better and better, and you never come back down. You just constantly get a little bit better. And that is the best approach. But you have to be patient because it takes time.
Maybe you could say just a little bit about how mindfulness can assist the patients and the execution of a training schedule like this.
One of the things you can do with mindfulness, which is really just paying close attention to what's going on, is to stop and monitor, how am I feeling? Am I kind of tired today? Do I feel a little lethargic? When I go up steps, do my legs hurt a little bit more than they used to? Am I finding myself taking the elevator because I'm tired rather than the steps? These are all signs that I'm overtraining. It's important to notice that and to examine, okay, what could I be doing? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I eating the right kinds of foods? Maybe I'm just running a little bit too much. And then back off a little the next week, monitor some of those same things you've been monitoring and see if there's a change. So that's kind of an anecdotal way of just monitoring. Another thing you could do, as I mentioned earlier, is check your heart rate to check on, make sure that's fine. And the other piece you could do is take a look at, how am I feeling psychologically? Is this goal still feel good to me? Am I having fun? Is this a joyful experience? And if the answer is no, that's fine. Now it's time to stop and look, okay, what's going on? Why is it not so joyful? Well, I thought I could do 4 days a week, but my job is taking more time for the next couple of months, and I really can't. And then we get frustrated because we can't do what we thought we could do, and then we push through anyway. And all those kinds of things are just not helpful. Rather than push through, let's just evaluate things as they are and work with them. Work with what is versus fighting what is. Work with the reality that as we know it right now versus how we'd like it to be. So it's really important, and that's the exercise in mindfulness. What's here right now? What's happening in my world right now? Not, darn, I wish it was different, or I wish it would change. That's not being mindful. That's something completely different. So we don't want to do that. We want to really pay close attention to what's happening and work with what is as it arises.
Great. Thanks so much, Marty. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been the Determine Your Schedule lesson in the Running with the Mind 10K training. And once again, if you have questions, you can email me at josh@runningmind.org. And if you would like personal coaching assistance, you can also let me know, and I'll help put you in touch with Marty. And good luck. We hope you have an enjoyable and successful 10K. And the next lesson that we will be recording will look at aerobic endurance training versus anaerobic speed training. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you.